The year 2023 for anime fans was the best and the worst the anime industry has ever been. A colossal amount of anime was released. Not all good, mind you, but still within it, there was a massive amount of anime that duked it out over which was the best title overall. After watching over 200 anime offerings this year, boy was it a pain in the to figure out what was my top 10. My short list was 15 titles, and I did everything within my power to decide which got cut. I tried talking myself down. I mean, it only had 8 episodes, Andrew. Throwing darts, flipping a coin, consulting friends and loved ones. What do you think I should do? No, they're not Chinese cartoons. I even tried to figure out how I can mathematically convince people 15 was the same as 10. In the end, I just had to grit my teeth and eject 5 of my kids to the side of the road, doomed to the self-shaming category of honorable mentions. But in the end, I think I have it. My top 10 anime of 2023. As per usual, my top 10 list only includes anime that has actually completed its run within the year. So shows like Frieren, Apothecary Diaries, Undead Unluck are not included as they are ending in 2024. As per usual, before you leave, make sure to hit that like button down below and leave me a comment. Let me know what your top 10 anime are of 2023. So with that said, let's just jump into it. Kicking things off, my number 10, we have cute anime girls with PTSD. Yes, Arknights, Perish in Frost. Arknights is a series that should not be this good. Based off a mobile game, its story is like it's wrote by a novel writer. It takes place in a world where many people are inflicted by this illness, and the governments have pretty much pushed those that are infected out of society. And as a result, we have the rise of the Reunion, a group of infected that are trying to take over the societies. And caught in the middle of this whole situation is those of Rhodes Island, led by Amiya. And they're the ones that are trying to figure out a cure for the illness while also working with both sides to create peace. And in Perish in Frost, we continue that story going into the town of Lungmen. It's a rare instance of one of those mobile games that actually has an incredible story. And despite the fact that I can't devote myself to playing that mobile game, at least I get the story through the anime adaptation. Now, while it's not the best animation out there, the directing is spot on. It's one of those series that shows both sides of a battlefield, and it has you hurting for each side, both having their reasons for why they're fighting back, and ultimately turning into tragedies that just kind of put fuel to the fire. For many of the main characters of the story itself, it's a fantastic character study, and it's one that I just can't get enough of. And yes, you can add to that the aesthetic of it, which is cute anime girls with puffy jackets and guns. What more do you need? Don't let the fact that it's from a mobile game dissuade you. Check out the series, it's fantastic. Moving on to my number 9, I have a harem show that I really like. Yes, 100 girlfriends who really love you. This show is absolutely fantastic. It's one of those ones that actually is fun just to kind of dive into every now and then, just pop on an episode and just get lost in it. It's a rare instance of a harem show that I can honestly tell everybody, please go watch this. Let's face it, harems for the longest time just got very stale. And 100 Girlfriends Who Really Love You is a situation where it feels like that formula is being completely flipped on its head. Having a main character who has been pretty much told that he's going to have 100 soulmates and that he has to return their love, otherwise disaster will befall them. And it's one of those rare situations where the main character actually does return love to these girls. And he's actually a cool guy. It's very rare to have a harem show where I actually root for the main character. He's not just a self-insert. He's not just a blank protagonist. He's not a, oh my gosh, I can't touch that kind of person. He doesn't have girl phobia. Rintaro is a fantastic character, and then added to him is just a fantastic set of girls. Yes, I always have like that one girl that I choose, but this is one of those situations where I like all these girls. They all have great personality. They all have a reason for why they like Rintaro, and each one of them adds a fantastic chemistry to the show. And not just that, it just really kind of feels like all these girls actually like each other as well. Which another thing that's kind of rare in harem shows. Typically with harem shows, the characters don't even interact with each other. These girls actually do. And yes, we're all hoping that Karane and Hakari actually get together in the end. The comedy is spot on, and every single episode had me laughing out loud. I just can't get enough of it, and I'm so happy we're getting a second season. Moving on to my number 8, an isekai that is not really an isekai, that needs to be labeled as an isekai, that's full of Yuri. Yes, the magical revolution of the reincarnated princess and the genius young lady. That title, just call it Majirevo. Majirevo is a fantastic example of an isekai done right. Honestly, it's one of those isekais that you're not really sure you should really classify as an isekai for the longest time. Majirevo is extremely refreshing for the fantasy genre in general, but yes, to the isekai genre as well. It follows this princess Anisfia, and many people want her to become the queen, but she's kind of a oddball. See, most of the royalty are actually blessed by these fairies to have magic, and unfortunately, Anisfia doesn't have magic, despite the fact that she really loves magic. So she does everything in her power in order to experiment and try to figure out a way to give herself magic that she doesn't have. All the while, her responsibilities for being the next ruler of the kingdom is kind of thrown upon her brother. On the opposite end, we have the daughter of a noble, Euphyllia, who has her reputation destroyed by Anisfia's brother. But Anisfia brings her under her wing and starts taking care of her, having her be her assistant while she works on her experiments. There's so much within the story to unpack, it's not even funny. You have Anisfia and her desire for magic, Euphyllia and her losing her entire purpose in life. Her entire life was spent being raised to be the next queen. You have Lainey and what role that she played and the thing that she's inflicted with. All building up to pretty much this bigger story about the kingdom and how they treat those that don't have magic. It was beautifully portrayed, the animation was great, the storytelling was great, the character writing was fantastic. I couldn't get enough of this series. It was a series that I loved watching every single week. I highly suggest checking out Majirevo. I absolutely adored it. Moving on to number 7, it is the show with smiles that you must protect. Yes, the Yuzuki family's 4 sons. My gosh, this show was an absolute gem for me. A series that unfortunately not many people watch, but thankfully after I made it my number 1 of fall, a lot of people spoke out saying, yes, I love this as well. I'm so happy to hear that. The Yuzuki family's 4 sons follows the Yuzuki family's 4 sons. And after their parents passed away, Hayato, the eldest son, decided to take upon himself the responsibility of keeping his brothers together, rather than sending them off to different relatives. And what comes from this is kind of getting individuals' perspective of each one of these sons and what they think of their situation they're currently going through. How the eldest son struggles with the fact that, yes, he has to give up a lot of freedoms in order to take care of his brothers. How 2 of the sons used to hate each other when they were younger. How the youngest son is trying to figure out ways in order to not be a burden upon others. These stories feel real. They don't feel like an anime. Well, there's some goofy anime tropes in there, like one brother is a little bit overly obsessive with the other brother. Overall, these stories feel very real. And like I said earlier, very relatable as somebody that has brothers. I adore these kids and I want them to be happy. There's smiles that I want to protect. It has a great style to it as well. The actual adaptation was fantastic. The portrayal of emotion for some of the characters was so well done. I cried so many times watching this show. It is just, it is the gem of the year, I think, overall. It's the show that nobody's watching, but it's like, I want everybody to watch it. It's so fantastic. I couldn't get enough of it, and I'm sad it's gone. Moving on to my number 6, Bungo Stray Dogs. You can pretty much call this Bungo Stray Dogs season 4 and 5. If I had to pick one, I guess I would probably pick season 4 was probably my favorite of the 2, but Bungo Stray Dogs continues to be one of the greatest anime series of all time. What I usually tell people that makes Bungo Stray Dogs so special is that it is a series that has way too many characters, but every single one of the characters is so well wrote. And the idea that typically with a lot of these shows that have a lot of characters, a big cast, whenever it changes scenes and you go to another character, there's a lot of cases where I don't even care what that character thinks. I don't feel anything for that character. Bungo Stray Dogs is different. Bungo Stray Dogs is a rare example of when it changes scenes to another character, I immediately remember, oh, this is this character that went through this is their driving focus, this is who they're following, and yet I'm still wondering what they think of the situation and if they'll change their mind on their stance of what's going on. That's what makes Bungo Stray Dogs so special. The characters are perfectly wrote. I actually had to finish the 3rd season before the 4th season came out. And while the first segment of that 3rd season was my struggle, the later part of the 3rd season was fantastic. And as it got into the 4th and 5th season, things just kept ramping up. It's one of those examples of a writer that I think kind of gets better as they keep going. The twists and turns of the plot line just keep getting better. And 4th season, man, just had an absolutely shocking moment that I was like, holy crap, I can't believe that just happened on my screen. The only real thing that kind of keeps the series down for me is I'm not really a big fan of the main 2 characters that are always focused on. Atsushi and Akutagawa. Those 2 characters I think are like an obsession with the writer, and I just don't really care about them. But like that's like 2 characters of hundreds. I can't get enough of it. I'm heartbroken the fact that we're pretty much caught up with the manga, and I might just actually reread the manga just to get the story again, because it's that incredible. I highly suggest the series. The writing is just too amazing. Moving on to my number 5, we have In Another World with My ED. Yes, Mushoku Tensei Jobless Reincarnation 2nd season part 1. Yes, I will get my biases out of the way. I am a massive, massive fan of the Mushoku Tensei series. I'm currently reading the novel series. I'm absolutely in love with it. Yes, a lot of my content is designated around Mushoku Tensei. It is just a series that has captured my heart. Mushoku Tensei is just a special series overall. It is a dark look into the mind of somebody that was discarded by society and has just a dark nature within themselves, getting a new chance at life. And getting into the 2nd season, we're seeing him in a lower point once again, feeling like he's been discarded by those around him and just trying to find a place to die. It is a story arc that you don't typically get with isekais. Typically, it's always, let's have fun. I have my smartphone in another world. Let me get a massive harem to follow me around and not touch them. And just blow up things and everybody says Sugoi. No, it's very grounded in reality. Mushoku Tensei has always been a series that is so unfiltered, and that's what I love so much about it. Seeing how flawed the main character is, and seeing the struggles they go through while things around them are still moving. Characters interacting with him that all have their own lives and their own focuses that don't necessarily always have to coincide with Rudeus, the main character. The world building and the character study of Mushoku Tensei is just something that is unmatched by really any other series I've run into. And yes, while I'll still struggle with the decisions that Rudeus makes, that's what makes it so interesting. When I can question what the main character does, when I can question the situation they're in, but still at the same time sort of understand why he's chosen to do what he does. The only reason it's number 5 and not my number 1, which I'm sure many people will question, is because yes, I will put my bias to the side and admit that I wasn't that fond of the directing and the animation that was done for part 1 of second season. There's so much context and whatnot that was lost with the adaptation that I didn't really see was lost in the first season. But it doesn't take away from the fact that I still adore the series. But yes, if you've not jumped on this train yet, or you're just staying away from it because, you know, questionable content, definitely give the series a shot. Moving on to my number 4, we have the perfect waifu show that caught me completely off guard. Yes, The Dangers in My Heart. Dangers in My Heart was truly a shocking series for me because when I came into it, I expected, okay, nerdy outcast guy, hot model girl, they're gonna fall in love for some reason because she's gonna see something incredible in him. Maybe he picks up her eraser at some point and she just goes, oh, Doki Doki, he picked up my eraser. Something stupid. I don't know. But what I got in this series, it took around until about the 3rd episode. What I got from this series was something absolutely incredible. Emotion, characters, directing, music, everything just suddenly hit me. The whole idea here is, yes, you have the outcast guy that has these incredibly dark thoughts. He loves murder mysteries and he loves just kind of fantasizing about, you know, one of his classmates, you know, ending up being murdered or something like that. This guy had kind of a dark mind. And yes, one of the targets of his dark thoughts is Yamada, one of his classmates, who, yes, happens to be a model. But through some chance encounters in the library, this place that Ichikawa, the main character, likes to hide away at. Through these chance encounters between the two of them, slowly over time, Ichikawa sort of starts to like the presence of Yamada, despite the fact that he always thinks the worst of her. Oh, she's hanging out with me. She must be messing with me. Oh, she did this for me. Oh, she must be laughing inside at me. It's best kind of summed in one comment that was made later in the series. This idea of being unable to love others when you hate yourself. It is sort of a self-reflection story. This idea of somebody feeling the worst of other people, but at the same time never feeling like they're adequate enough. This person's obviously messing with me because nobody would like me. And how they portray that story just was an absolute gut punch. I absolutely adored these characters, and I love how they portrayed their stories. If that wasn't enough, if the characters and the story itself, which was absolutely fantastic, wasn't enough, the adaptation took it to a whole nother level. The studio, the director, and yes, the musician behind the series all came together to synchronize into creating something absolutely beautiful. There's several points throughout the series where something incredible happens. Something important happens. Something with impact happens. And the whole team kind of came together perfectly to create more impact in the scene. Especially the musician, with these notes that are very deep and very impactful. You almost feel the emotion in your stomach through the music itself. I'm so happy this is getting a second season. I'm so happy the team is returning, and I cannot wait for more. It is easily going down as one of my favorite romance series of all time. And yes, is kind of fighting to find a place within my top 10 of all time. I highly suggest checking out the series. I love The Dangers of My Heart. Moving on to my number 3, The Perfect Storm. Coming out at the right time, following the disaster adaptation of the second season of The Promised Neverland. Yes, Heavenly Delusion. It's one of those mystery series that you just love to kind of figure out what's happening on a constant basis. There's a mystery that kind of opens up this series and the idea that you have two different perspectives. One is Kiroko and Maru, who are kind of traveling around what looks like a post-apocalyptic Tokyo. And on the other side, you have a bunch of kids that are within this kind of confined and sanitized facility, hence the Promised Neverland reference. And as the story goes along and you're jumping back and forth between these two different perspectives, you're slowly unraveling the mysteries of the world itself. This idea that in the outside world, you have the presence of these man-eaters, these monsters that are coming out and killing people. And within the facility, you're seeing how all these kids have different abilities that make them each unique. And the fascinating thing is that over time, you're kind of seeing those threads that connect the two sides as it slowly comes together and things are unraveled. It was an absolute joy to watch, and it was so much fun trying to create theories behind it and just talking with other people and trying to theorize on what exactly is happening. It's that type of show that you just can't get enough of, and you're waiting for the next episode to see what will they reveal here and what questions will they create. It was a pure joy, and I just cannot wait for another season of it. Add on to that the fact that Production IG did an incredible job with the adaptation. There was so many great animation points in it that just had me hyped. Moving on to my number 2, I have the absolutely horrific look into the disgusting side of the entertainment industry that I never thought I wanted, and now I'm so happy I have. Yes, Oshinoko. Oshinoko is truly a special series. Why it's so special is that it's one of those series that as it's playing through and the stories are being told, sometimes you kind of wonder, why is this person like this? Why is this so dark? And then you realize at some point, no, that's exactly what happens. The series is essentially about Aqua, our main character, who is trying to look into something in the entertainment industry. He's trying to find an answer to a question. That's about as far as I'll go because I don't really want to spoil things. But Aqua is basically looking for these different threads and going to different areas of the entertainment industry of Japan and trying to solve this mystery. And all the while, the darker side of the entertainment industry is coming to the forefront. You have the lighter aspects of things like, simply an actor didn't get a job even though they did an incredible job because this other person is being promoted by the company as the next model. But then it gets as dark as things like, cyberbullying and somebody unfortunately being pushed to the edge. Why I love this series so much is, yes, Doga Kobo did an incredible job adapting it. The music was fantastic. The voicing was fantastic. The character designs are fantastic. But at its core, the thing that I love the most about this series is that it's so, unfortunately, real. Aka Akazaka, who of course is the original mangaka for Kaguya-sama Love is War, has a very unfortunately raw insight into the entertainment industry itself. This is a writer that has been pretty much involved with most mediums. He's worked with the entertainment industry with doing live actions, anime adaptations, so many different sides of the industry itself. And that shows in the idea that a lot of these stories that he's telling within this series are stories that are unfortunately kind of true. While covering anime as long as I have looked into a lot of elements of the entertainment industry in Japan. And yes, a lot of this stuff does happen. A lot of these decision makings by companies, a lot of the throwing people under the bus, ruining lives for the sake of promotion, all that kind of stuff does technically happen. It's so real and so raw that yes, one of the particular stories they get into with this first season upset a group of people because it was pretty similar to a real life event. Aka Akazaka knows what he's talking about, but despite the fact that it's so real and it's so uncomfortable, there is a message within there that I think is actually incredible. For instance, when we get the story of Akane, I felt it was portrayed in a way that says, people, wake up and stop. It was a message that unfortunately people keep ignoring despite the fact that it's something that constantly happens in the real world. And Aka Akazaka's willingness to dive into a story like that and not hold anything back is exactly why this series should exist and why it is so incredible. And that's not even getting started with the characters themselves. I love pretty much all these characters. Kana's fantastic, Miyako's fantastic, Aqua's fantastic, Ruby's fantastic, Akane's fantastic, all these, Memcho's fantastic. There's not a character in the series that I'm not completely invested in trying to find out more about, and I can't wait for their moment to really shine. It is just all around a fantastic series. It's just perfections in every realm. Animation, music, voicing, emotion, character writing, everything is just bars above really anything else. Anyways, that's Oshinoko. So your question is now, what could possibly beat Oshinoko? He just literally said it's perfect and it's incredible. What could possibly beat it? Yes, probably the most controversial pick of this list, the one that everybody's gonna be upset about, that I didn't choose the most popular shonen show. Where is this show? Where is this show? How could you pick this over all these other stuff? Yes. But if anybody actually knows me, they know that I'm honest. I don't pick what is the most popular on Mal. If you want a top 10 list of the most popular shows ever, just go to Mal. Just go to AniChart, filter it by the year. You'll see the most popular shows that most people are remembering. That's not my list. My list is personally after watching 200 plus shows of this year. After spending so much time covering content and producing content for people, my focus is to give every single show a shot. And yes, the show for 2023 that came out on top, the show that personally I adored, and I would hope that everybody would give it a shot. A show that definitively, every time I think of my favorite show this year, this is the one that always pops up on top. There's not even a question. It's just an instantaneously, this show is on my mind. Honestly, a show that is a prime example of how an anime adaptation could essentially take the source material and create something new with it in a way that kind of transcends the original source material. Yes, that show, my #1 anime of 2023 is Onimai, I'm Now Your Sister. Onimai was an absolute treat for me. I could not get enough of this series. I absolutely adored it. For those that don't know, it opens up with this guy that wakes up one morning and he's been turned into a girl. Yes, his mad scientist sister has slipped something in his drink and it has transformed him into a girl. Now, yes, we have a lot of stories about gender swaps and how it kind of just fetishizes the idea of a guy now being a girl, and lots of pervy things happen. That's not Onimai. Onimai is almost, you could argue, pretty much a mostly wholesome take on that concept. Because the deeper story of this, and like I said before, is where I think Studio Bind did an incredible job adapting this, is they pretty much took this manga, which was mostly a skit-based comedy, and they turned it into an actual story here. Mihari, the sister, is essentially trying to get Mahiro, the new sister, the boy turned into a sister, trying to get him to change his life, essentially. He's been a shut-in for a long time, and he really hasn't gone out. He hasn't met anybody. He doesn't want to socialize with people. He just a shut-in. And Mihari has always looked up to her brother. She adored her brother, but she's honestly kind of seen that he's kind of stuck in his little rut. And so yes, it seems like part of that whole plan was to turn him into a girl and show him pretty much the outside world in a new light. It kind of turns into this balance between different elements the story goes through. Yes, one concept is how Mihari really does love her brother and wants the best of him, wants to essentially save him. Yes, there's the concept of Mahiro and his desire to be a shut-in. But then there's those deeper elements of like Mahiro essentially coming out of his shell, going out to the outside world, meeting people, learning new joys in the world that he's never experienced before. And yes, all that has been created by that initial concept of Mihari turning him into a girl. But that's not to say there's no fun here. This show is an absolute blast to watch. It's just fun. It constantly brings a smile to your face, and the comedy is absolutely hilarious. Seeing how, yes, Mahiro sometimes forgets that he's a girl, and so he does things that you really shouldn't do when you're a girl, like running into the boys' bathroom and lifting up your skirt in front of the urinal, confronting the other boys in class and them completely being flustered because a girl's talking to them. All these different girls that he meets and befriends, and all their kind of fun together. It's just through and through, the show was just absolutely incredible. And just adding to that fact that Bind did an incredible job animating it. Just the animation, the Sakuga that was in it just was absolutely incredible. This was still back when Bind was in its heyday, before it kind of lost a lot of its staffers. And so it kind of shows really like a lot of the passion behind the group that did this. I mean, the animators online, just seeing them in their celebration of the show itself was just an absolute treat. Onimai, in the end, for me, is a perfect show. It is an absolute masterpiece. It is a prime example of taking a source material and doing something absolutely incredible with it. They move things around in the story so they can have a nice, amazing climax at the end. And it was something that I was afraid of at first, but when they actually executed it, I was stunned. I cannot suggest enough. Onimai, I'm Now Your Sister is an absolute prime example of uncomfortable truths done in a way that is super wholesome, all packaged in an incredible job that the animators did. I highly, highly, highly suggest Onimai, I'm Now Your Sister. And yes, it is by far, above and beyond, without a doubt, for me, the anime of 2023. And there you have it. That is my top 10. I'm putting the stamp on it. It's just done. I'm not gonna move around them anymore. I've spent way too much time just kind of figuring out which one will go there, trying to figure out what will go here. My honorable mentions, the ones that unfortunately got cut. In the end, the children that I had to put on the side of the road and I felt so bad about, Dark Gathering is one of them. I absolutely love Dark Gathering. It was an absolutely amazing horror show. Just didn't hold anything back. It gets super dark. It is easily one of my favorite horror animes in a long, long time. Yayoi of that series is just so twisted, and I love the crazy stuff that she does with the spirits. The mechanics that she's kind of figured out within that world is just super fascinating. Fate Strange Fake, I talked myself out of this one. I just said, you know, look, it's an OVA. It's kind of like a movie. I don't want to include it in a TV list. So that's how I talked myself down from Fate Strange Fake. But Fate Strange Fake is incredible. I absolutely adore this author's work, and it shows in this kind of take on the Fate franchise. And I cannot wait for them to come out with a series because it's that dark grittiness that I love. Like it reminds me a lot of Fate Zero, and I'm like, yes, give me that. I want that. It's so good. Ranking of Kings, I talked myself down on this one because technically, like, quite a bit of it was like skipped content from season 1, but I still loved it. Like, I got all the answers that I wanted that the first season didn't give me. All these insights into characters, and yes, finally a closure around Oaken that I wanted so badly. I adore Ranking of Kings, and I loved Treasure Chest of Courage. Honeyman Saito was an absolute treat. I love that show. The only reason this one was the easiest one to take off my list, and that's mainly because there was this whole section in the middle of the series that I didn't like. But the rest of it, the beginning and the later part of it, I adored the show. It was so freaking funny. Especially the early part was so funny. And I love the characters. Zom 100, man, the hype died with that one because it had such a massive delay, but I still really enjoyed it. It's like a rare, my gosh, why don't we have more zombie anime? And it was a lot of fun. It's just a joyride. Now, I will admit, and I wasn't really going to change my spot when they announced that they were going to do the last 3 episodes here recently, because I was like, I remember that part in the manga, and I hated it. Like, I hated all the antagonist characters and their driving force, and it felt like a therapy session. Like, this whole segment was like, everybody's dying, but therapy session for a bunch of bad guys. It was kind of annoying, but I still loved it. Like, this Zom 100 is a prime example of a zombie anime that we don't ever get anymore, and just taking it, having fun with it. It's an absolute joyride, and the coloring, the animation was incredible. It's one of the reasons why I'm not too mad about the idea that they kind of delayed for so long, because at least when they came back, they did it right. Now, we'll argue that they should have not had those delays to begin with because they should have planned better, but it's a new studio. I don't know what's actually going on behind the scenes. Hopefully, they get that stuff resolved if they ever do a second season. Next is Skip and Loafers, which is just fantastic characters. It was a slice of life, very light drama series that I just adored the characters. The character writing is so fantastic. It's just one of those cases of seeing a group of people all being kind of magnetized to the main character because of their nature, and then kind of seeing these different sides of all these people that are kind of normally wouldn't hang out, but now they're kind of hanging out because they all want to be around this one person. And getting into each one of those characters was just absolute brilliance. I really do hope we get another season, because it really did feel like, yes, it just kind of ended. It didn't really feel like a very satisfying end, and I want more of it. And finally, I'm going to mention Insomniacs After School. I adored that series as well. It was a really incredible series. Also, Overtake, Pluto was great. Megan Dally, oh my gosh, Megan Dally is great. I love Megan Dally. Masterful Cat, Sacrificial Princess, Bang Dream is my go. That one too. Vinland Saga second season was really good as well. Yamada, level 999. 80,000 gold. Anything else I want to mention? To Your Attorney second season was great. Tsurune second season was incredible. My gosh. Danmachi, Dr. Stone, Buta Reba. I gotta stop. Anyways, that's my top anime of the year 2023. It was an incredible year. I would admit way too many shows. I really hope that the anime industry kind of dials it back, because even though I listed like 20 shows or something like that, there's a lot of bad shows. I watched over 200 shows. There's a lot of bad shows. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this list as always. If you did, make sure that like button down below. Comment again. Let me know what your top 10 anime are of 2023. You can list 50 of them if you. I don't care how many you list. I love hearing from you guys. I love seeing your list. And yes, it's great because if anybody has a problem with my list, they'll check out your list. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you want to support the channel more, I have a Patreon link, tips link, super thanks, membership button down below. Greatly appreciate everybody does. And y'all take care.